Every miracle of Jesus is powerful, but this one, his very first, was the beginning of something greater. It didn't happen before a crowd of thousands. There was no public stage, no mighty storm to calm or great battlefield to conquer. It happened at a wedding, with a simple problem, in a quiet moment where heaven touched earth. This is the story of the first miracle of Jesus, turning water into wine. The village of Cana in Galilee was bursting with celebration. Music and laughter echoed through the sun-drenched streets as families and friends gathered. At the center of it all, a bride and groom were surrounded by pure joy. In Jewish tradition, weddings weren't just a one-day affair. They were week-long festivals. To accommodate this, food and, most importantly, wine were prepared in massive quantities. It was a symbol of abundance, blessing, and hospitality. Among the guests that day were Jesus, his newly gathered disciples, and his mother, Mary. Everything seemed perfect. The air was filled with festivity, the mood was light, and the future seemed bright for the new couple. But then, quietly at first, a shadow fell over the celebration. Something had gone terribly wrong. A problem no one expected, and one that could ruin everything. The wine was gone. Now, to us, this might sound like a minor inconvenience, an awkward party foul, but in that culture, at that time, running out of wine at your own wedding was a catastrophe. It wasn't just a mistake. It was a profound public embarrassment, a sign of poor planning and a lack of honor. The joy of the celebration could instantly curdle into shame for the host family, a memory that would follow them for years. The music would feel hollow, the laughter would die down, and the entire event would be remembered for what it lacked. Mary, ever observant and compassionate, noticed the quiet panic among the servants. She saw the concerned looks and understood the gravity of the situation. Her heart went out to the young couple and their families. Unwilling to let their joy be stolen, she didn't go to the master of the banquet or the groom. She went directly to Jesus, with a simple, urgent statement. She laid the problem at his feet. "They have no more wine." Jesus looked at her, his response seeming almost distant at first. "Woman, what does this have to do with me? My hour has not yet come." He was speaking of a greater hour, a divine appointment for his ultimate purpose. But Mary knew her son. She didn't argue or press the issue. Her faith was unshakable. Instead, she turned to the nearby servants, who were anxiously waiting, and gave them an instruction filled with profound trust. An instruction that has echoed through the centuries. Do whatever he tells you. Nearby stood 6 large stone water jars. These weren't for drinking. They were part of the Jewish customs of purification, used for ceremonial hand-washing. Each one was enormous, capable of holding 20 to 30 gallons of water. They were functional, ordinary, and at that moment, they were empty. Jesus looked at the servants, who were now watching him with a mix of curiosity and desperation. He gave them a simple, practical command. Fill the jars with water. It must have seemed strange. What did filling water pots have to do with the lack of wine? It made no logical sense. But they remembered Mary's words. Without questioning, they obeyed. They hauled bucket after bucket, filling each of the 6 massive jars right to the very brim. Not halfway, not most of the way, but completely full. When they had finished, Jesus gave another instruction. Now draw some out, and take it to the master of the banquet. Imagine being that servant. You just filled a pot with plain water. And now you're being told to serve it to the most important person overseeing the feast. The one who would be the first to notice if something was wrong. It was a test of obedience and faith. Yet again, they obeyed. One of them dipped a pitcher into the jar, drawing out the liquid. They had absolutely no idea that they were carrying a miracle, about to become the first witnesses to the power of the Messiah. The master of the banquet, a man with a refined palate, took the cup. He was completely unaware of the crisis that had just been averted. He raised the cup, expecting water, or, at best, very poor, watered-down wine. He tasted it. His eyes widened in astonishment. He swirled the liquid, tasting it again. This wasn't water anymore. It was wine. And not just any wine. It was rich, full-bodied, and exquisite. It was, without a doubt, the best wine he had ever tasted. Confused but delighted, he called the groom over, not to scold him, but to praise him. With a laugh, he said, "Everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best until now." The groom must have been utterly bewildered. He knew nothing about this best wine. But the servants knew, Mary knew, and the disciples of Jesus, watching this all unfold, knew. Just like that, in a quiet, unassuming way, the ordinary had become extraordinary. Water had become wine. Not through a magic trick or some elaborate illusion. It happened through the quiet, creative power of God, present in the person of Jesus. This miracle was about so much more than just saving a wedding party from embarrassment. It was a sign, a profound declaration of who Jesus was and why he had come. This first display of his glory showed that Jesus brings new life and new joy. He takes situations that are empty and fills them to overflowing. He transforms the ordinary, the mundane, the ceremonial, into something extraordinary and life-giving. Those old stone jars, used for external, ritual cleansing, represented the old ways, the traditions that could make you clean on the outside but couldn't change your heart. Jesus took those empty vessels and filled them with something new. Something vibrant and celebratory, the wine of a new covenant. A new relationship with God. This act revealed his glory for the very first time. And the Bible tells us the powerful result. His disciples believed in him. Their journey of faith began right there, at a party. The message of this miracle speaks directly to us today. The wedding at Cana ran out of wine. In our own lives, don't we sometimes run out of things? We run out of strength to face another day. We run out of hope when circumstances look bleak. We run out of joy when life becomes a burden. And we run out of peace when our hearts are filled with anxiety. We find ourselves in situations that feel empty, barren, and beyond repair. But just as he did in Cana, Jesus still steps into our empty situations. He is still in the business of transformation. He still turns our brokenness into restoration, our weakness into strength, our tears of sorrow into tears of joy. He still takes the plain, ordinary water of our lives and turns it into the rich wine of his presence and purpose. But there is a first step, the same one Mary pointed to all those years ago. We must do whatever he tells us. We must trust him, even when his instructions don't make sense, and offer him the empty jars of our lives. Your miracle might not look like fire from heaven or a sea being parted. It might not be loud or dramatic. It might look like a quiet peace settling in your heart in the middle of a storm. It might feel like a surge of strength to keep going when you wanted to give up. It might be a flicker of hope when you were sure all was lost. And sometimes, in God's perfect timing, you discover that the best has indeed been saved for last. Because today, just as he did then, Jesus still turns water into wine. Thanks for watching. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that explores the depth of faith. We'll see you in the next video.